Hey friends, how are you today? This is the FH71 by Ganzo. Why do I have two of them, you ask? Well, I ordered one, actually three Ganzo knives, and they came across the border, and I noticed on the tracking, I usually don't check tracking, but it had taken a long time, that it was sitting at Canada Customs. So I figured, well, Canada Customs, whenever they have a knife, they're probably going to keep it. So I ordered another set of those same three knives, but slightly different color versions. And then they both sets arrived within a week of each other. So Canada government did let me keep the set of flippers, which is unusual. It's the first time ever that they've stopped flipper knives of mine and allowed them to come into me. So hey, I'm happy about that, but I've got two of these knives now. One's got the carbon fiber laminate on it, and one's the G10 version. It comes in three other colors yet. You can get this in that bluish gray. You can get it in black G10. And you can get it in it's a forest green kind of color G10 as well. So if you're interested in this knife, by the way, it's not the newest of the Ganzo FH series knives. The FH71 just came out. Here's a picture of one of them. If you buy Ganzo items from Power Cutlery, which is where I bought these, you can get 5% off just the Ganzo products at Power Cutlery when you use coupon code CCE, lowercase. 5% is 5%, right? The other place to get these knives is Amazon, so I'll have links down below for Amazon and for Power Cutlery. And I've got some European stores that have Ganzo knives, but they don't have these models. The only place I found this is in North America. Let's stop the chatter and get to the tabletop to take a good close look at these knives. So here they are. We'll do a little bit of a size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1. We'll line up the pivot pins here, all in a straight line right there. As you can see, the Rat is longer, the handle's longer, and the blade is longer. Cutting edge, though, is very close to the same. Let's do it this way. We'll put the tip right there at the point there, and then right there. See that? The cutting edge is very much the same as an Ontario Rat 1. And I'll give you all of the exact dimensions, at least the dimensions on my examples. I measured most of the sizes off of this one. The blades do have slight variation between the two, but there you go. Let's begin by talking about the blade. It's D2 carbon steel. It's got a fair bit of chromium in there, but it's not a stainless steel as such. So be careful with your stainless steel, all knives, including stainless steel, but D2 can corrode on you, especially if you live near the ocean or someplace with high humidity. I live in a dry part of the world in Alberta, Canada, and I don't get rust on D2 very easily at all, unless I leave it in water or something silly. Now, the G10 versions have a highly contoured handle scales, and the carbon fiber laminate, which is carbon fiber layer on top of G10. It only has these, I don't know what you call these, feathers, there's milling on the side. It only has the milling on the side done. Other than that, it's flat. The G10, it's rounded. The edge on here is just slightly rounded. And on the inside, between the two spaces there, in that space, it's not rounded over very much at all. The G10 here also not rounded over very much. If I was keeping one of these knives, and I don't know, I might, I think I'll take sandpaper and put it in there and just round over that edge a tiny, tiny bit, because it's a ever so tiny bit warm in the hand by the thumb. Not a big deal. The blade shape, we've got a thumb riser here, a little bit of jimping, and then we've got a drop point with a swedge on the nose of the drop point here. We've got a saber grind, which is a flat grind that doesn't come all the way to the spine. It's close to a full flat grind, but it's a high saber grind, so that's flat. We've got a belly all the way along the blade, a nice sharpener's choil that's just big enough on both of them. It's just barely big enough, but that's nice. And then you've got here, the front edge here, the bevel is chamfered on the edges, or the steel is chamfered on the edges, and you've got a little bit of jimping right there. so that you can do the light switch mode very, very easily. If that's what you want to do to open the knife, it works very, very well. Lanyard hole is right at the very end of the handle, which is a good spot for it if you want it. And then we've got a back spacer made out of G10 with jimping standing proud of the handle there. So as you can see right there, it bumps up a bit. So it offers good grip, extra grip in the hand right there when you're holding the knife. Very comfortable knife in the hand. My hands are between large and extra large, between 10 and 11 in European men's glove sizes, and I find this knife very comfortable. You know, it sticks out of the end when I'm holding it. You know, a regular saber grip. You can even go up and do a pinch grip like this, and that's quite comfortable. Fist grip works, and again, the handle sticks out a bit. Reverse grip, the handle sticking out again. It's okay on the back here as well. My thumb likes to bend quite a bit right there. It just wraps around there very well, nice and sturdy grip. Not bad at all for the different various grips and things. There is one hot spot on this knife that I just find a little bit odd. There's no reason for it. But Ganzo has a tendency to make pocket clips that are too big this way. They stand out too far. So even though the screws on the pocket clip are proud, they're bumped up, you've got huge pocket clip this way. It should be thinner, like thinner this way, instead of being so thick. I don't understand what Ganzo's thinking, and they do this probably on a third of their knives. I look through my set of Ganzo knives that I have, and it's their tendency, at least a third of the time, they make these pocket clips too big. And on this specific knife, it gets a little hot in the palm of the hand right there when you're holding it tight. The front here on the black one's not bad at all because it's very close down here. This one, the brown one, the tip here is out a little bit higher, but of course I could bend it down to be more like this black one. So that's sort of the basics on the outside. Now let's talk about the action. I'll just move one of these away, keep it on the screen here. The action works quite well. The jimping on the front there, you've got 2 notches. It gives just a good amount of jimping so that light switch method, the blade just comes flying out. Now, if you want to use the push button method where you're pushing down sort of, you really have to push back on at least a 45-degree angle to get that to work. You can't just be pushing down. You really have to be pushing back a bit, but then it works quite well. The detent on both of these is quite good. You can just hear it get sucked in there. And then this one, I think the brown one is a little bit stronger on the detent. Both are pretty good. Lockup on these knives is very good. It's not too early, but it's close. It's close to being too early, but it's not too early. That means it's got room to wear all the way across for a long time, and that's a very good thing. Blade alignment, when it's closed into the back of the handle, it's very close to right on both of them. On both of them, the liner lock release, we just have it very well chamfered there. There's no jimping on it, but as you can see, it's quite well exposed. Easy to get your thumb in there to push that liner to the side. One thing to notice is you've got screws with Torx heads on both sides. I haven't taken one of these apart yet to see how they made it. I don't know if one of these is a locked one, but sometimes Ganzo puts these a locking pin, pivot pin that can't turn at all, and they still put a Torx head in it. And that's a good way to strip it out because you're trying to loosen it and it just won't loosen, and then you end up chewing it all up. So when I take the knives apart, and you'll see a video of that in just a few seconds, I'll tell you how that pivot is made, and I'll show you the rest of the insides right now. So I went to take the pivot screw out, and I put my screwdriver in it and started undoing it, and it's just free spinning along. This side's just spinning as well. So I put the knife into this vise that I have. I've got a table vise foot here. I've got some links down below if you want to get one. You can get these at Amazon pretty cheap. And it just holds the knife much more easily so that you can put one screwdriver in one side, one screwdriver in the other side, and you're able to undo it without having the thing falling or without slipping and going and stabbing your other hand with a screwdriver. So using this method, I can unscrew the pivot screw, and they tend to use thread locker at Ganzo, so it is the best way to do it this way. And yeah, there's some white thread locker right there. And now I can take this apart. Now to put it back together again, I probably don't need that driver again. Oh, these are T6s, so I got to get another driver. Now take that off. So you can see that there's oil residue in there, but that's how the recess is made, and then the liner fits inside there. So you can see that skeletonizing there. And let's open this blade up so it's out of the way. Just lift that off of there. So there's the one side, quite good. This side doesn't have any skeletonizing. There's your steel ball bearings, and that's pretty much how the knife is made. So the only thing I don't like about this is the free spinning pivot pin. That is how it's made. The next thing I want to do is go over all of the dimensions and that kind of information, and this will be on the screen as long as I'm talking about those items and those details. So here we go. What's the weight of these knives? This guy was 97 grams, and this guy was 97 grams. This one was 98 grams. So basically that's 3.45 ounces, 3.4 ounces, roughly. My ounces aren't super accurate. I can get to the gram, but I can only go to 0.05 of an ounce on my measuring equipment, my scale. How sharp is this knife? Well, both of them came in pretty good. One of them came in at 185. One of them came in at 190 best. That's the sharpness rating that I use, a factory calibrated device that can test how sharp a knife is. So they're not terrible, but they're not good. I like to sharpen D2 to about 20 degrees per side. Now let's talk about the dimensions of things. The cutting edge length, actually I do all these dimensions there with this black one, so let's just have it on the screen. The cutting edge here is 8.5 centimeters, 3.35 inches. The blade length, so tip to the closest spot on the handle scale, 8.77 centimeters, 3.45 inches, so almost 3.5 inch blade. The blade thickness back here is 3.42 millimeters, which is 0.1345 of an inch, just over 1/8 of an inch thick. The blade depth, I measure 1 inch up from the sharpness choil, so right about there, 2.22 centimeters, 0.875 of an inch. The thickness of the edge behind the grind at that same spot, right where my thumbnail is, 0.44 millimeters, which is 17.5 thousandths of an inch, so that's a very good thinness. And next is the handle length. The handle length is 11.25 centimeters, 4.43 inches. The grip area, I'm saying it's just a little bit less than 10 centimeters, just a little bit less than 4 inches of grip space in here. And the thickness of the handle, these two are different, and they're slightly different, but this one is 1.26 centimeters, 0.495 of an inch. And this guy is just a tiny, tiny bit thicker right at the thickest point in the middle, but it feels thinner because it's rounded all the way over. And the handle depth here is 2.56 centimeters, just a hair over, or maybe not even a hair over 1 inch. When the knife is closed, it's biggest right about here again, and that is 2.93 centimeters, 1.15 inches. And the total length of this knife, oh, I only have it in metric, 19.8 centimeters long, and that is almost 7 7/8, just a very tiny bit less than 7 7/8. I just realized I didn't give you the grind angle, so I'm recording this afterwards. On this knife, the grind angles here were 19.8 degrees on one side, 21.7 on the other side, and this one was 18.3 degrees on one side and 21 degrees even on the other side. It's fairly well ground in that the angle is fairly consistent, although the angle does change quite a bit in this last half an inch close to the sharpness choil. The rest of it stays fairly consistent on both sides. So, you know, when I sharpen this, I'm going to give it a good 20 degrees per side. So not bad at all. Almost 8-inch knife, 3.5, 4.5, roughly. Very good proportions. And the balance point on this knife is right there, right where you want it to be. And on this guy, it's very much the same, right there. And that's just a good job with the skeletonizing and making the details just right with how they made it and everything. The inset liners, that saves a little bit of weight because G10 is lighter than steel, so the steel doesn't have to come right to the edges, so they save, you know, 1/8 of an inch on both sides for the steel. So not bad, nicely made. It's got a good look to it. It looks like a sort of an EDC utility kind of knife. Utility as in useful for all kinds of little tasks. It doesn't look like a self-defense knife. It looks like a nice tool knife, and it's fairly strong at the tip because it stays quite thick until you get quite close to the tip, and that swedge helps as well. It slices quite well because they made it fairly thin at the final edge right there. They sharpened it okay at the factory. It feels good to use. It's easy to open and close. I like that they've recessed the screws back here. I like that they sculpted the G10 here. It's got easy access to the lock release, like I mentioned. Sharpener's toils are very good. This jimping here for the thumb rest, it's well designed. It gives comfort, and then you've got a negative spot here. If you want to reach forward, you can put your thumb in there. You know, if you want to push really hard. It's a well-designed knife. The cons, I wish the pocket clip was right and left, and I wish the pocket clip was made a bit smaller. Those are the two biggest factors that I wish they would have changed. And the only other thing that I wish they would have changed is I wish they would have rounded the edges just a little bit more. Here where the carbon fiber meets the G10, that was chamfered, so it's got a flat edge to it. I wish it was more rounded over like it is on the G10. This is sort of rounded and soft, whereas this is a little more crisp on the edges, which means the all G10 version is more comfortable in hand than the carbon fiber one. And I think the all G10 one looks better, especially that bluish gray color. That looks really sharp. I like that. And of course you can get it in black or that really nice forest green G10. All of these are available right now at Power Cutlery and at Amazon.com. I've got some other links for stores in Europe, especially in the UK, that carry some Ganzo knives. I thought you couldn't get Ganzo knives in the United Kingdom, but there's some stores that have them in stock in the United Kingdom, so you'll be able to get some Ganzo knives from them. So that was the summary. What do you think of this knife? If you've got any comments, questions, or concerns, stick them down in the comments below. I read all the comments, but it sometimes takes a few days before I get to them, so please be patient with me. If you need to get to me in a hurry, or you definitely want to converse with me, just email me at CanadianCuttingEdge@gmail.com, and I'd like to have a conversation with you about just about anything related to knives and sharpening and stuff like that. So thank you, my friends, for watching this video. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing this video. Thanks for subscribing, hitting that bell, commenting, all the good things that you do. A big shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. And if you've not yet heard about, there's another Canadian knife channel, the Big Canucker. He's trying to get his channel up and off the ground. So if you're interested in listening to another perspective on some knives, maybe check out the Big Canucker. The link is down below and in the comment section. Until then, remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.